Right, YouTube. So I made a classic BMW mistake and had a look under the car. So I've, surprise surprise, found a coolant leak. So I had this big black mat under the car. I can see a little puddle on it. So I put the car up on axle stands at the front, taking the plastic cover off underneath because it was dripping out of here. So the puddle was forming underneath there. So you can see, I don't know how well it's going to pick it up on this, but it's pretty wet. It seems to be a lot wetter at the front of it. So I don't know whether it's coming out the radiator or the expansion tank. Such a pain in the ass. So the radiator is about 2 years old. The expansion tank's probably only done about 100 miles, if that. Yeah, about 100, 200 miles. One of them, some of that was a track day, but it still shouldn't be leaking that quickly, unless it's one of the main hoses that's on the front of the car. So I think in a little bit I'm gonna run it, try and get a bit of pressure in there and see if I can find out where it's coming out of. So I've just been running it and I can see some drips coming down. Looks roundabout where the expansion tank is, but let's go on a wonderful journey of discovery together. So there's the drip coming down there. So there's where the leak's coming from. Oh, a bit awkward to get to. So that's the leak. So I'm hoping that's, well, I suppose it's just as expensive as each other, but I think it's probably the radiator. Okay, you got to think that that's the radiator that's leaking, because if it was where the expansion tank connected to the radiator assembly, it'd be dripping more directly out the bottom there, because that's where it sits, around there, not dripping out the bottom of this. So yeah, I'll have to take it apart and drain it and all that. I was forever having coolant leaks, but I suppose that's what you get for smashing it around the track and giving the poor old girl a hard life. Forgot to mention I've taken the fan out, which is nice and easy. 2 electrical connectors, like a little torque screw there, and then just a plastic clip there. That slides out nice and easy, and I've just taken the intake scoop off as well. Give me plenty of space. So I think that's drained as much as I can from the radiator drain. I'm going to see if I can drain some out the expansion tank as well. No matter how much you do, it's still gonna be more coming out when you go to disconnect stuff. So got a nice big reel of paper towel ready. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that, whether it's better with the light or without. But I've tipped the coolant into some containers. As I got the dregs, you can see little tiny bits of metal. I don't know where they originated from, whether they just come out of the radiator. I would have thought so. Don't know whether that's concerning or not, or whether that's just And what you're likely to see just remains of when they machined the radiator. But yeah, the dregs are going in the waste. Now I'm draining the expansion tank. Not sure if I better get that on the camera, but it's the little blue plastic thing that you can unscrew at the bottom of the expansion tank. Bit of a pain, doesn't come out, so it just wants to go everywhere. So you want to sort of lift the tray up until the main flow stops. Giving the pipes a bit of a squeeze as well. Try and get any extra out. And that one down there. So at some point I'll have to disconnect that one, and then the one down there at the bottom of the radiator. There. Going to move on to this lower hose now. So yeah, expect a load more liquid. I've moved the container under that. I've just unplugged the I can't remember, I think it's a temperature sensor. Just unplugged that. Stuck a carrier bag, one of my many Martians carrier bags. Just put that over some of the belt and aircon, I think it is. So yeah, ready to ping that off. Just a little, get a screwdriver in there and ping the clip up, and that should come off hopefully. So not much liquid actually came out of that bottom hose, which is good. Real pain in the ass to get off, it really didn't want to let go. But yeah, finally got it to let go. I'll probably replace that hose and the top hose as well. So I did them probably 2 or 3 years ago. As most of you are aware, all the rest of them I've done recently. So I've just moved the airbox out of the way, and then I'm just going to disconnect this hose from the expansion tank and the radiator, and I have to disconnect the return hose down there. So now I've just unplugged the coolant level sensor, just take that up there out of the way. Disconnected the return pipe, and then just connected it there out of the way again, stop it dribbling on stuff. I've disconnected the top hose, both bits of that. I'll just leave that suspended there out of the way. So now I need to get the expansion tank off. Expansion tank's out now. Just pull the clip on the bottom of the expansion tank. You can see down this side. If you just pull out towards the red trolley jack in that direction. Gave it a bit of a wiggle in it. Let go of those 2 connectors down there. That one and that one. I've just disconnected that pipe as well. So there's the radiator out. Basically the only thing's really holding it in, that screw, is that like torque screw that goes in over here somewhere, which holds the fan to the radiator. That holds the radiator on as well, and it's pretty easy. You just sort of lean the front of it out a bit, lift until you clear that pipe, and then you can sort of slide the whole thing that way a bit and avoid stuff over that side. And you just lift it out the bottom there, obviously the top, and then we've got where the expansion tank sits on, and where we drain some of the coolant out from. So when I looked before, when it was leaking, it was over here somewhere. I think you have all this bit here for if you've got an automatic, something like, I think you have like a transmission cooler. So you have to kind of, I think when you, if I remember right, when you put the radiator on, you do something which basically indicates whether you've got a manual or automatic, and if you've got a manual, it blocks off the flow to where this transmission cooler is going to be. So yeah, I think I did this, I replaced this radiator about 3 years ago. and this bracket, I expect, has never been replaced. So I'm inclined to think it's the radiator more, because the only connector in terms of water or coolant is this one down here, which is the one that you set for the manual to be blocked off. So I don't know if you can see, but it's completely dry in there. So when I unplugged, so to get this off, you've got two torque bits, one kind of there in the middle of the screen, which connects onto there, and then one kind of in the middle of the screen there on the top, and it just comes out of that clip there, and you just sort of lever it away. So this is completely dry inside. So I'm going to have to leave the car for a little while. So obviously I have to order some parts as soon as I figure out what it is I need. So until then, I just stuffed a bit of plastic in all of the pipes, stop any bits going in them. And I've just chucked the expansion tank and the bracket that holds it to the radiator. I've stuck them in plastic bags. I've just pinged off the bottom cover on the radiator, which is just poke a screwdriver in about 5 different slots, and then it pings off. I'm still none the wiser as to where it's leaking from. So I tried various things. I tried to pressurize the radiator to see if I can spot a leak. That didn't really work. I think I can see, I don't know whether this is going to show it up. Let me get the light on. Because there, to where the metal meets the plastic, you see a nice blue tinge there. So I'm wondering whether it's split there. That certainly is pouring off this metal bit that you can see nearest the screen. Just dripping like mad off there. So it's about a week later now. I've got some parts that have arrived, a new radiator and a couple of hoses. So there's a new one unwrapped. You can see it's got a bit of a dent in it. I think it should be alright. So I believe the coolant runs along these cylinders here, and then the fins are just for dissipating the heat. I complained and got 10% off. So yeah, I got a couple of hoses, the two big ones, the upper and lower one. So there's the upper one with the bleed hole, and the lower one where you put the temperature sensor, I think it is. You'll probably get, so the radiators are compatible with autos and manuals. So you'll have one of these already installed, and should have one that comes with it, so you can put whichever one you need. So I believe this one's for the manual, because I couldn't actually remember, so best bet is just check the old one. So this is the old radiator. We can see that it's the little one. So what that basically does is, if I point the camera it might help. So roughly about there's an outlet for the radiator. So if you put the little one in, it stops that outlet being able to send coolant to this output here. Whereas if you have the longer one, the end of it goes past the outlet, allows coolant to come out and therefore out here. tempting to try and get the expansion tank on now, and then I think it's going to be a bit tricky then to slot this in if I do that. So I'll put the expansion tank on afterwards. Okay, so I've just pinged the clips out on both sides. The two hoses that go to the thermostat. They came off really nice and easy actually. The hoses themselves, which was nice. So I just need to pull the sensor out of the lower one, put that in my new hose. That's a fairly new one, so I won't bother replacing that. Not sure if you'll be able to see, but the side nearest the front right of the car, there's a little part of the radiator assembly slots in there. So that's when you know it's in properly, and then this will end up nice and flush. So that's part of the radiator assembly, and that's part of the rest of the car. So you can see it's nice and flush. So I've just chucked one of those torque screws in just to hold it in place. And that side's been held nicely. So you can see there's not much of a gap there. But over here there's a bit more. So I can't really, I think I had this problem last time. So if you look there, that's supposed to have something go through it and screw into there. But I had this problem last time. It just doesn't fit. See if I can point out. So it fouls there. So the edge of the radiator assembly hits the corner of this. So it won't ever be sort of up flush to this. Yeah, I had this problem last time. I think I just cable tied it on. I'll leave that off until I get the expansion tank back in. So quick recap, I've connected, put the sensor back in that hose, fitted that hose to the radiator and the thermostat, put the expansion tank back in, connected the little hose at the bottom down here, that one, put the clip back across. I've connected, I think it's the return hose there, halfway up the expansion tank. I've put the upper hose, attached that to the thermostat, and then connected that to the expansion tank and the radiator. So I tend to connect the little one first, because I think I said before, I've had leaks before when I've done that one first, and then that one it hasn't quite sealed properly. So you can hear them clip into place. As long as the clips are down when you push them on, they sort of raise up and then clip back in, so you can hear them click into place. So I think that's it. I think that's what I've done. So I've just run the cable back down to the sensor underneath, my nicely taped up and glued sensor. So that's plugged back in, and I've just plugged in the coolant temperature sensor cable, so that's back in. I think just run this cable back along here ready to plug in over there. There's the other one, the fan. So apart from airbox, I think I'm done now. As you slot the radiator in, it kind of slots in just there. It's quite obvious anyway. And it slots in, that tiny little thing down there. Yeah, just put the two connectors on the fan. Tidy this up a little bit. See, last time I cable tied this, sort of the neck of the expansion tank to the car, because it's kind of, I don't know, it's got quite a lot of movement in it. I suspect that's because what I was saying earlier, where you can't attach in that corner there. So I might do that again. Keep the whole unit still on that side. So I'm not going to go through the bleeding procedure. I'm not actually going to bleed it right now, because I want to do the front control arms. You can see it in one of my other videos. I think there was like a long series where I took all the inlet manifold off to do the pipes and hoses under there. So it'll be in one of them towards the end of them. But basically you just get the car as high as you can at the front. You fill the expansion tank all the way to the top. Put the ignition on, so it's not running, but so you can have the heaters on. Put the heaters to the highest temperature, but the fan only needs to be like on level 1. And then you have the bleed screw off, and it will just keep, because the heaters are on, it will send the coolant all the way around, and then you should get all the air coming out of here. When you stop seeing air coming out and it's just liquid, then, well it's bled then, but then afterwards you need like a syringe with a bit of hose to take your coolant level back down to what it should be. So that's the method I use, and it's always served me fine, so there we are. I think we're just gonna get some penetrant on the control arms underneath, leave that. I'll probably have a go at them next week. So I've had the little bugger running for about 5 minutes and can't see any leaks, which is nice. So hopefully it was just the radiator. I mean, I was only running for about 5 minutes, so I would have thought it would have leaked because there was a good amount of pressure built up. But I need to take it for a spin to properly check. But I can't do that for a while because it's up on ramps, so I'm going to do the front control arms. So let's hope we don't have any more leaks for a while. The cooling system was all pretty new now. Actually, think it's just a thermostat and a pump. Probably the oldest things, they're about 2 or 3 years old. But they've not really seen that many miles, just some hard track miles. So hopefully we've not going to be cooling system leaks for a while. So thanks for watching once again. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.